Trip went last year. There was a forester and I guess a bird person along. And when they started down the canyon, the instructor said, "Okay, you can pick a bird or a plant to study." My question is, why not both? You know? And this year there was at least some kidding about the fact that a couple of my students, including Dan, were there, and there was some mild resistance to people watching birds. They were supposed to be watching the rocks. The rocks don't fly away, right? And birds sometimes land on them. So,
teachable moment.
You know, I just think there's a lot more integration that could take place to make the whole thing richer again. I mean, what Al and I did and other things that were done here earlier on were very special. But the bureaucracy over the years has solidified. As any bureaucracy does, you know? It gets harder and harder.
Do you think the students?
That's why Charlie.
No, and I think I want to comment on the Evergreen students.
Yeah. That
is an absolute salvation. The Evergreen students remain excellent. During the winter quarter, I had 3 bootleg students, which means I had someone else sponsored them, and then I taught them. That's what we do at the field station, where Sally and her husband take care of things down in Mexico. Someone sponsors them and gets paid, and then somebody else teaches. But I had 3 students, and I took them over east of the mountains in March. And one day we saw 56 species of birds, which is not bad for March. And I invited along with us a student who is one of my favorite students in the late 80s and early 90s. And his wife has recently taken a teaching position at Central in Ellensburg. And Jerry has taught a few courses. Anyway, we went out. We saw 53 canvasbacks in one place, and we saw 28 swans, and so on and so forth. And Jerry, who's a little bit effusive anyway, called me 3 times to thank me. And he said, "You know, your Evergreen students asked me more questions in an hour than all of my students at Central asked me in all the time I've been with them."
Wow.
And I think that's probably true. I mean, I've been over at Central. I mean, Sally is a graduate of Central, and there are a lot of things I really like about it. But you know, all the guys are about that wide to the shoulder. They weigh 220, and they wear their hats like this. It's difficult. There's a picture of somewhere of me in a hippie blanket around me, and with clip-on earrings.
Oh my God!
From a long time ago. And I hope that that's been buried. It was before the internet, but I'm sure it would be viral.
It's probably in the archives now.
Some circles.
You should have probably had it out here on the square last night.
I'll sort of finish with one of my favorite stories from when Al Wiedemann and I taught. In the early days of Evergreen, we had to start late in the fall because a good percentage of the students were on the east side of the mountains picking apples. And there were a lot of other things that were different. Well, Al Wiedemann came from an impoverished German immigrant family that had a little farm on the outskirts of Chicago. And he was a young man when white bread came into common merchandise. And so he retained a love of balloon bread. And so when we went on the early field trips, we would get a bottle of French's mustard. We would get some bologna, preferably with that little green tint. And we'd go out and we would start fixing lunch. And the students were just aghast. Some of them were convinced we'd be dead before dark. But our ultimate trick was on one of these field trips, coming back from. We used to go out for 26 or 27 days total in the spring quarter. Just go on the road. We would go from here down the coast of Oregon, where Al was the authority on the dune vegetation, We'd end up in the redwoods in northwestern California. Then we would go to Ashland, and in Ashland, talk about diversity. Al would take us to two plays, one a Shakespeare play and one a contemporary play, and then have some actors come down to the place where we were staying to talk with the students. It was just magic. Then we would go to Heart Mountain, then we would go to Malheur, then sometimes we went to geological site, John Day Fossil Beds. Then we'd come back. It was wonderful. But on this particular trip, we got cans of dog food and cans of corned beef hash. And on the last morning, coming up to Oregon, we made a big deal out of making dog food and eggs. So here's a can, and that dog food label on it. We took the lid off, and there was that corned beef shaft. Looks just like Alpo, right? And the students were and we pulled it off. There was one older fellow in the crowd who knew what was going on, but he didn't blow our cover. Anyway, thank you so much for coming. I hope you more about the local flora anyway. And it was a great joy for me, and it's wonderful that you folks came to this 40-year event. It's been quite wonderful. I've enjoyed it a great deal, and I've enjoyed meeting all of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Let's lobby.